50 Cent has spent more than 20 years building one of the most dangerous reputations in hip-hop. But in 2026, he is not scaring the industry with diss tracks anymore. He is doing it with documentaries. And for a lot of people in the rap world, that may be even worse. Because a diss track can come and go, a meme can trend for a day and disappear, an Instagram post can be deleted, but a documentary is different. A documentary lives forever. It gets clipped, reposted, rewatched, and turned into part of someone's public record. And that is exactly why so many people are paying attention to Curtis Jackson right now. There's a reason this conversation exists. There's a reason people watch every move 50 Cent makes online. There's a reason one post from him can send blogs, fan pages, and entire comment sections into chaos. It is because 50 Cent is no longer just a rapper with grudges. He is now a media power player with production companies, network relationships, streaming connections, and millions of people ready to watch whatever he puts his name on. And once a man like that starts hinting that certain people could be next, the whole industry gets uncomfortable. That shift became impossible to ignore at the end of 2025. That was the moment when 50 Cent made it clear that documentaries were not just a random side project. They were becoming a new weapon. He entered the new year by announcing Gang Wars, a true crime series with A&E on the surface that sounds like a normal business move. But in reality, it meant much more than that. It showed that 50 was going deeper into the documentary world, deeper into crime-based storytelling, and deeper into a lane that gives him the power to turn controversy into content. And the timing made that announcement hit even harder, because it came right after the success of a major documentary connected to Sean Combs. That project proved something important. 50 Cent was not bluffing. He was not just talking tough online. He had already shown that he could help create the kind of documentary people would actually watch in huge numbers. He had already shown that he could turn scandal into a cultural event. And once that happened, a new question started hanging over the entire industry. If 50 Cent could do that once, who could he do it to next? That is what makes this version of 50 so different from the one the rap game first met. Back then, his power came from chaos, aggression, and fearlessness. He came into hip-hop like a wrecking ball. His early records were built around provocation. He took shots at everybody. He built his name by acting like no one was untouchable. He was reckless, strategic, and completely willing to make enemies if it helped him get attention. Then his story became even bigger. He got shot 9 times, survived, disappeared, came back stronger, linked up with Dr. Dre and Eminem, and exploded into superstardom. But the most important thing about 50 Cent was never just the music. It was the mentality. He never forgot a slight. He never stopped keeping score. He never stopped seeing conflict as fuel. That part of him never changed. What changed was the battlefield. He is not fighting most of these wars from the booth anymore. He is fighting them through media, business, social strategy, and long-form storytelling. He is no longer just asking, "Can I out-rap you?" Now the question is, what happens if I tell your story to the world? And that is where things get dangerous. Because the rumor of a 50 Cent documentary can create almost as much panic as the documentary itself. That is exactly what happened when he briefly teased what looked like a possible documentary connected to T.I. and Tiny. Now to be clear, there has been no confirmed full release plan, no verified final production rollout, and no official public proof of a complete series actually being released. But that almost does not matter. Because with 50 Cent, the threat is part of the strategy. He understands the modern news cycle better than most artists ever will. He knows that if he posts something even once, people will screenshot it, blogs will run with it, YouTube channels will talk about it, social media will start arguing, and by the time he deletes the post, the damage is already done. The seed is planted, the name is back in the headlines, the pressure is on. That is not trolling by accident, that is media warfare. And the reason it works is because 50 has the infrastructure to make the threat believable. He has G-Unit film and television. He has real production experience. He has relationships in television and streaming. He has already proven that he can help turn controversy into a polished piece of content people actually consume. So when he hints at something, people do not laugh it off the same way they might laugh off a random internet rumor. They pause, they think. They wonder what he knows, what he has seen, and how far he is willing to go. And if you know 50 Cent's history, you already know the answer to that last question. Very far. That is why so many names keep coming up every time people talk about who might be nervous. Jay-Z is one of them. Their tension goes back decades. It traces all the way back to the late 90s, to the early days when 50 was still building his name by taking shots at major figures. Even when things seemed calmer on the surface, 50 made it clear over the years that they were never really friends. Later comments about the Super Bowl only added more fuel to that conversation. So when people look at 50's documentary run, Jay-Z becomes one of those names hovering in the background. Not because anything is confirmed, but because the history is there. Then there is Ja Rule, maybe the most iconic enemy in 50 Cent's entire career. That feud was not just music. It became one of the defining wars in hip-hop history. It involved humiliation, violence, public takedowns, and years of relentless pressure. Ja Rule knows better than almost anybody what happens when 50 Cent decides you are a long-term target. That kind of history does not disappear just because the era changes. Rick Ross is another name people always bring up, and for good reason. That beef got deeply personal. It went way beyond songs and interviews. It became psychological. It became strategic. It showed how far 50 was willing to go just to get under someone's skin and stay there. So when people imagine what a 50 Cent documentary could look like if he ever aimed it at someone from his old enemies list, they immediately think about names like Ross. Then you have the more recent battlefield. Jim Jones, Dame Dash, Young Buck, Mino. These are not old stories buried in the past. These are names tied to ongoing tension, recent friction, public insults, business disputes, and online warfare. And that matters because current conflict is often where 50 looks the most dangerous. He is still emotionally connected to those situations. He still has energy for them. He still seems interested in applying pressure. Jim Jones is a perfect example. Their issues have escalated far beyond normal rap back and forth. Public trolling, embarrassing clips, online attacks, alleged leaks, constant jabs, it has been relentless. With Dame Dash, the conflict keeps circling back through business, ownership disputes, and public commentary. And Young Buck's situation is darker than most, because it is tied to accusations of sabotage, money problems, and the breakdown of a former partnership that clearly left scars. These are not lightweight arguments. These are layered conflicts with years of resentment behind them. And that is exactly why 50 Cent's documentary strategy feels so threatening. He is not targeting strangers. He is not chasing random topics. He is circling people he has personal history with, people whose rise, mistakes, relationships, and controversies he has watched up close. That gives him something most media producers do not have: a proximity. He understands the people, the politics, the culture, and the pressure points because he was there for so much of it. That is what makes him different from an ordinary commentator. He is not just reacting to stories from the outside. He was in the rooms, he knew the players. He watched the alliances form and collapse. He saw who turned on who. He remembers who said what. He remembers who moved funny. And if there is one thing 50 Cent has built his image on, it is the idea that he never forgets. That is why even the possibility of a documentary becomes powerful in his hands. It is not just about what he can prove. It is about what people believe he might know. It is about how much material he could have been sitting on for years. It is about whether he might finally decide that now is the right time to put that story on screen. And timing is one of 50's greatest weapons. He knows when to post. He knows when to go silent. He knows when to tease just enough to spark panic without saying too much. He knows how blogs operate. He knows how fan culture operates. He knows how the algorithm works. In many ways, 50 Cent has evolved from rapper into narrative controller. He understands that in the modern entertainment world, controlling the story can be more powerful than winning the argument. That is why his presence feels so heavy right now. Because the old version of 50 Cent wanted to destroy you on a record. The 2026 version might tell your story in 4 episodes and let the world binge-watch it. That is colder, that is smarter, and in some ways that is much more damaging. So when people ask why the industry gets tense every time 50 Cent announces a new documentary move, the answer is simple. Because he has already proven he can turn controversy into content. He has already proven he can make people watch. He has already proven that he understands how to use suspense, timing, and public curiosity as weapons. And once somebody like that starts pointing his camera in your direction, even slightly, you have a reason to worry. That is the new era of 50 Cent. Not just a rapper, not just a troll, not just a businessman. A man who turned 25 years of beef, grudges, rumors, and industry history into media power. And the scariest part is, he may be just getting started. Because the real question is no longer whether 50 Cent will make another documentary. He will. The only question that matters now is who ends up being next.